Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's French lesson we are going to explore the future tenses in French, futur simple and futur antérieur. Going to start using them in speaking examples, and we also are going to be learn how to conjugate verbs in the future tenses. So stick until the end to find them out. The future simple, le futur simple, is formed by adding the endings e, a, on, et on to the infinitive of the regular verb. So we know that we have regular verbs such as parler, finir, réussir, manger, and so on, or irregular verbs where we have specific stems for the future in this scenario, to which we add the same endings e, a, on, et on. We have we have here an example of a regular verb, parler, which is to speak. So we're going to start pronouncing them, and we're going to see basically how we see over here the endings. Je parlerai. We see the group AI right over here. Je parlerai. So we see parler, parler, and then another e, parlerai, okay, which means I will speak. Tu parleras, you will speak. We notice here the ending as added to the infinitive form. Il, elle, on parlera. We notice the ending a added to the verb parler. He, she, or one, someone, will speak. Nous parlerons, on, added to the end. We will speak. Vous parlerez, you will speak. E, the ending added to the end of the infinitive form. Or ils, elles parleront, on, added to the infinitive form. They will speak. Okay. The next tense that we're going to try to remember is the future in the past, or futur antérieur. It is formed by using the future of the auxiliary verb. Being a compound tense, it needs to use an auxiliary verb, much like passé composé or plus que parfait. So, we're going to have the same auxiliary verbs, avoir or être, and we of course are going to apply the same rules to the accord of the past participle over here, which I will go through once again for you to remember them. But the main gist of this is that you need to conjugate avoir or être in the future simple tense and then add the past participle after that. So you can see over here that the verb parler, which we know that is a static verb, so it doesn't involve movement or changes in state, to speak, it will be conjugated with avoir. We have j'aurai, tu auras, il, elle, on aura, nous aurons, vous aurez, ils, elles auront, and then we have parler as the past participle, which means I will have spoken, you will have spoken, he or she or one will have spoken, we will have spoken, you will have spoken, they will have spoken. Now, the biggest confusion that many people will have when trying to conjugate in the futur antérieur, it is to basically translate back from English, which is not correct. Um, why is that? Because in English you're going to say I will have spoken and use the verb to have, which is avoir in French. But when you have reflexive verbs such as s'habiller, se nommer, se réveiller, and so on, or verbs that include changes in state, descendre, devenir, and so on, or verbs that include movement, aller, venir, and so on, they are conjugated with être, which is to be. And you will not have a direct translation to from I will have into the verb être conjugated over here. So it's important to remember that in French, with compound tenses, you need to follow this rule in your mind of choosing firstly which auxiliary verb to use if you're talking about compound tenses, avoir or être, and then think about what past participle I have, and lastly, to apply this rule that you have over here, avoir, être conjugated in the future tense, in the future simple tense, plus the past participle. So let's go ahead and take a look at when to use avoir versus être. We know the rule of Mrs. Van der Kamp. Now, where does this come from? It comes from the initials of the verbs that actually need by themselves to be used in conjugation with être. And I'm sorry, I've provided the list over here for you. Monter, to go up, retourner, to return, sortir, to go out, venir, to come, also includes words such as revenir, devenir, and so on that are in the same family. Aller, which means to go, naître, to be born. So you're going to say something like il sera né, il sera né au Toulouse. He will be born in Toulouse. Descendre, which means to go down. Obviously, if monter is one, descendre is going to be one. Entrer, obviously, because if you're going out, then you need to also enter. Sortir, entrer. Rentrer, to return or to go home. Tomber, to fall. Rester, to stay or remain. Obviously, it describes a change in state. If you're moving and then you're staying or remaining somewhere, and then you have changed your state. Arriver, mourir, and partir. Additionally to all of these verbs of Mrs. van der Kamp, a schema, you have all reflexive verbs, which means that they have in their structure the reflexive pronoun se. So, se promener, se réveiller, se laver, se lever, all of these are reflexive verbs. And also, they are called reflexive verbs, also all the verbs that you can make from regular verbs, but you add to them the reflexive pronoun. So, for example, if you're going um, to say from to basically, I don't know, you're going to express an action with se to oneself, right? Then it is a reflexive verb and it needs to be conjugated with être. If you're taking a verb that is regularly conjugated with avoir and leave it at that, then you're conjugating with avoir. So we know now when to use avoir versus être. Next, we need to talk about agreements of the past participle. The past participle usually ends in e with an accent, like we have over here for er verbs, like manger, manger, parler, parler, and so on. For type 1 IR verbs such as finir, réussir, you're basically going to take out the ir and you're going to put an e instead. Fini, réussi, and so on. Or if you're going to have type 2 IR verbs or type 3 verbs such as recevoir, reçu, and so on, you're going to have the ending u. Now, obviously, there are also some irregular past participles, so it's a good idea to check out a list of them, all right? And to check them out as you go. For example, prendre has the past participle of pris, which is written PRIS. So, obviously, it doesn't follow the same rule, but this is the usual scenario. What you need to know, however, is that all être verbs, so basically all verbs that are conjugated for compound tenses with être, they require the agreement with the subject. What do I mean by that? Let's take this example. Elle sera sortie. We notice here that we have sera. Sera is the future of the verb être. And here what we want to say is she will have gone out. So we have futur antérieur of the verb to go out, which is sortir. We have the past participle, which we know is sorti, right? It is one of the type 1 IR verbs. Okay, so being the past participle sorti, what I need to know in order to make the agreement is who is the subject. So who will have gone out? She. She is a pronoun that is feminine and singular. So we're talking about two different aspects. If it is feminine, I need to add an e at the end. Okay? This is the rule at the end of the past participle. If it is masculine, I don't add no e. Okay? If it is singular, I don't add no s after that. And if it is plural, I need to add s. That gives us four scenarios where we have masculine singular, where we don't add anything after the past participle, feminine singular, which is our scenario over here, elle, where we add after the past participle just a single e, masculine plural, when after the past participle we add a single s, and feminine plural, which is the case where we add both e and s after the past participle. All right. So this is basically the agreement of the verbs with être, and this applies to tenses such as passé composé and plus que parfait as well, and also conditional past that we have not discussed yet on this channel. Um, Regarding avoir verbs, they generally don't require agreement. They only require agreement when we have um, a specific scenario, which is a direct object before the verb that is being conjugated. So, if you're going to say something like this, I will have, sorry, I will have seen them. You're going to say je les being a direct object pronoun, aurais vu. And also you see over here that I mentioned that with them, I'm referring to feminine objects or people. So multiple objects, I add an S, as feminine, I add an E. The past participle of voir, in this case, to see, is vu. So I'm saying je les aurais vus. If, however, I would have seen j'aurais vu la montagne, then I would not need to add an E because the direct object is placed after the verb. Okay, if I say j'aurais vu la montagne, if I say je l'aurais vu, then I need to make the accord with the direct object pronoun. Or I've provided you also an example where you would put the direct object in itself as a noun or anything before the verb. How we do that is to basically introduce the verb with the relative pronoun que. So you're going to have this structure: direct object, les enfants, que, and then the um the verb that are conjugated in a specific compound tense. Here I've taken the passé composé, but obviously you can also adapt it to the future in the past. The main idea for you to understand is that if I'm saying the kids I saw are here, or the kids I will have seen sometime are here, then you're going to ask I'm sorry, you're going to ask yourself basically what I saw the kids, right? So if you're responding with this noun or pronoun, uh, if you're responding to the question what or whom addressed to the verb, then you're going to have a direct object uh, on your hands. So, with that scenario in mind, if you have les enfants or another noun here, obviously, a noun, a concept, plus que, plus a compound tense, then you need to make the agreement of a compound tense conjugated with avoir. Yeah, this is important. Then you need to make the agreement of the past participle according to the direct object, not with the subject. All right? So that is important. Again, let's recap. If you have verbs conjugated with être, the agreement is done with the subject all of the time. If we have verbs conjugated with avoir in their compound tense, we need to analyze if we have a direct object before the verb, whether it's a direct object pronoun or a direct object as a noun or other, then it doesn't not matter. If it is before the verb, then we agree with the direct object. If it is after the verb, then we don't make the agreement at all. And in any other scenario, we don't do the agreement. I hope this is clear, but if it's not, you can always comment down below with a question and I will try my best to answer you as fast as possible. Next, we're going to go through the usages of these two tenses. The future simple is much like in English, used to express or talk about actions that are going to happen definitely in the future. So we know for certain that they are going to happen in the future. We can also, however, express predictions. Uh, for example, you can use après que or aussitôt que, which means as soon as, dès que, again, as soon as, lorsque, when, or quand, which means when, or une fois que, which are conjunctions that express action, can express actions in the future. Or you can also use certain adverbs of time such as demain, demain soir, demain matin, and so on, which mean tomorrow, tomorrow evening, tomorrow morning, and so on, in order to make predictions. You can make predictions about anything. I mean, really, you can make predictions about the weather. Demain soir, il pleura. Um, Demain soir, il ferait beau, and so on. You can make any type of predictions. You can make predictions about people's actions. You can make predictions about your own actions, and so on. All right. And I've also provided you here an example of uh, basically two verbs, right? One that is introduced with a conjunction like dès que vous serez au lit. So once you will be in your bed, right? Once you're tucked into your bed, je vous raconterai, je raconterai, I will tell, vous, whom do I tell? To you. Je vous raconterai, I will tell you, une histoire, a story. Right? So basically, you see here how you can talk about future actions that are definitely happening, and also you can talk about some form of predictions or conditions and so on. Le futur antérieur, which I marked with FA, is used generally in historical writing, but also to make assumptions in the past. So, when you're saying something like this, Sandrine is late, her car must have broken down. Basically, what you're saying is that uh, due to a cause that has happened in the past, so you're assuming that something happened in the past which led to the present right now. Okay, so this type of cause and effect relationship, you can describe it using the future in the past. So, Sandrine est en retard. Sandrine est en retard. Sandrine is late. Sa voiture, her car, sera tombée. Okay, we see here the usage of the verb tomber, but it does not mean the to fall in this here, because tomber en panne is an idiomatic expression. It means to break down. So, sera tombé en panne, it means must have broken down. Okay, so we see here the verb être conjugated in the future tense and the past participle agreed, of course, to the subject as we've discussed previously. Her car must have broken down. So it's basically the cause of what is happening right now, that the car must have broken down. All right, now we've talked about how there are irregular verbs, and here I've basically taken for you the most common irregular verbs: aller, avoir, être, faire, pouvoir, devoir, savoir, venir, voir, and vouloir, which mean to go, to have, to be, to do, to be able to have to know, to come, to see, and to want. So generally, you're going to want to use these verbs in different sentences, and you can see here basically the stem that is specific for the future tenses: aller, ir, avoir, or, être, ser, faire, faire, pouvoir, pour, devoir, devre, savoir, sort, venir, viendre, voir, vers, vouloir, voudre. And basically to this, you would add the future endings. So in order to obtain the future simple. Obviously, if you want to obtain the future anterior, you have for each verb to think about whether it is conjugated with être or avoir, and for that to use their respective stems, of course. So, for example, for aller, to say I will have gone, I'm going to think, okay, aller is a verb of movement. It's also one from Mrs. Van der Traap verbs. So I need to conjugate it with être. I'm going here and I see that être has a specific stem of ser. So if I'm going to talk about myself, I'm going to say je serai, serai, we see over here the ending, and then aller. And now if I'm male, so I'm not going to accord with anything. But if you're female, you're going to need to add an e at the end over here in order to express that you're female. Je serai allé. I will have gone. And the same happens for all of these verbs, right? I would advise you to go through each of them and to analyze why, of course, they are conjugated like this. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can comment down below, and I will answer them. The last thing that we might need to discuss is futur proche, or near future, or future that can be adapted. So near future can be also in the present, let's say, right? So when I'm saying I'm going to, or I'm going to do something, or I was going to do something, right, in the past. So the formation of the near future is by using aller conjugated in the present tense plus the verb in the infinitive form. For example, je vais euh, je vais aller à la plage, or nous allons aller à la plage. We are going to go to the beach. Now, if I'm going to want to say we were going to go to the beach, so a future action but in the past, then we're going to use the imperfect tense or the imperfect form to talk about intentions in the past. So, nous allions aller à la plage, right? You can also talk about a near future action that is happening in the present right now with just about two to do something, right? So to express that, you can use the expression être in the present tense, en train de. So if I'm saying nous sommes en train d'aller à la plage, we are just about to go to the beach, right? We are just about to do a certain action, which is going to the beach. You can also express it in the past, obviously, as an intention in the past by using the imperfect form of the verb être in this scenario. Nous étions en train d'aller à la plage. We were just about to go to the beach. Again, if you have any questions about this, you can always ask. Now, what we're going to do is a reading practice. And I'm going to want you to try to follow with me if possible. If not, you can listen to me once and then you can try to do it on your own and check it back from minute 25 and 50 or so to see if you've pronounced everything right. Demain sera une journée chargée et passionnante. Dès le matin, je me lèverai tôt pour commencer à réaliser mes projets. Après avoir pris mon petit déjeuner, je partirai pour ma séance d'entraînement au gymnase. J'aurai travaillé dur pendant des semaines et je suis convaincu que je verrai des progrès significatifs aujourd'hui. Ensuite, je retournerai chez moi pour me préparer pour mon entretien d'embauche. J'aurais passé des heures à me préparer mentalement et à réviser mes réponses aux questions potentielles. Je suis confiant que je réussirai et que cette interview ouvrira de nouvelles portes pour moi. Après l'entretien, je rencontrerai des amis pour aller voir un film au cinéma. Nous aurons choisi ce film depuis des jours et j'ai hâte de partager ce moment avec eux. En rentrant chez moi, je réfléchirai à tout ce que j'aurai accompli demain. Je serai reconnaissant pour les opportunités que la vie m'a offertes et je serai motivé à continuer à travailler dur pour réaliser mes rêves. So this is basically the pronunciation, and I hope that you noticed, because I've tried to make you notice the pronunciation of the future tenses. Sera, lèverai, j'aurai, travaillé, and so on. Je retournerai, and so on. In order for you not to confuse them with other tenses that may have similar pronunciations. And lastly, the last part is a speaking part. So you can try to formulate your own answers to these questions and try to write them in the comments. Or you can also obviously try to listen to how I'm answering them. Quels sont tes projets pour demain? Demain, je me réveillerai et vais faire, je vais faire des achats, puis je vais courir et je préparerai mon petit déjeuner. Je travaillerai dur aussi car je vais aller au cinéma le soir et je veux avoir du temps pour y faire. Donc, après avoir fini mon travail, je me reposerai un peu et puis je ferai une promenade jusqu'au cinéma pour voir le film. Après ça, j'aurai je me serais rencontré avec mon ami, mais il a dû annuler. Donc, je vais seulement me reposer et peut-être voir une série euh, au télé. The second one is what do you hope to be doing when you'll be older? Qu'espères-tu faire lorsque tu seras plus âgé? Quand je serai plus âgé, j'espère travailler, euh, j'espère avoir travaillé dur, euh, autant que je pourrais voyager beaucoup. J'espère que je visiterai euh, beaucoup de musées. J'espère que je visiterai beaucoup de cultures, beaucoup de pays et je vais faire beaucoup d'amitié. Euh, et je passerai le temps euh, par simplement rire et par simplement euh, être heureux pour ce que j'aurais accompli euh, jusqu'au ce moment. And that would be a good response by using different variations of future in the past or future, near future, or also future simple. I hope that this tutorial has helped you a lot into understanding the usages of the future, and I hope that you're going to subscribe to my channel for more content like this. For now, bye bye.